Sometimes during the course of my 70-year ministry, I've heard people rather scornfully ask, what's the advantage of being a Christian? After all, you Christians, you get sick like everybody else. You get cancer, you get heart disease, you get diabetes, you get the coronavirus just like unbelievers do. What's the great advantage then of being a Christian? And I think that's a question worth considering at this time when we're facing this epidemic that we've never faced before in the history of America, a time when our lives are being turned upside down, and a time when I guess close to 100,000 people now have died from the coronavirus. Well, part of that question is true. Christians are not exempt from the difficulties of life. Bad things happen to Christians just as they do to people who are not Christians. And that's because we live in an imperfect, fallen world, and bad things happen to good people. We live in a world that is not like that God originally intended for us. But because of man's sin, we live today with the difficult circumstances that often surround us. But there are some real advantages to faith in Christ. I think, first of all, that the Christian has an advantage because of the Christian lifestyle. Let's face it, a lot of the problems that we face, a lot of problems that people face, are brought upon themselves. Things such as drug abuse or alcoholism or violence or anger or hatred or marriage infidelity. All of these are things that we bring on ourselves, and that we can't blame God for any of that. And the Christian who seeks to live a moral and righteous life is spared these negative elements of existence. But there are other reasons why Christians have an advantage. We know that when we face some of the inevitable calamities of life, that we're not alone. In Romans, in the Bible, in the 8th chapter, the Apostle Paul wrote, and he was writing, by the way, to people who were facing fierce persecution. He could write and say, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress, persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? No. In all these things, we are the more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. Now notice, the Apostle Paul has not promised that we will not experience difficulties in life, but he has promised that in the midst of our worst situations, we are surrounded by the love of God. In Isaiah 41:10, we read this promise from God, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, yea, I will help you. I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. But the greatest advantage which the Christian has is hope. For we have the assurance that because we have put our trust in God, and because we have accepted the offer of life everlasting, which he offers through his grace, we do not have to fear death. You see, for the Christian, it's not the end. It's really a glorious beginning. That's why the Apostle Paul could say, as he anticipated his coming death, for me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Listen to that. Paul speaks of death as gain, as a promotion. You know, we've got it all wrong. Well, we talk about people losing their lives. But if that person is in Christ, he or she has not lost his or her life. They have really found it. They found life everlasting. life abundant, glorious beyond anything we've ever known, because the greatest advantage of being a Christian is the hope that we have in Christ Jesus.